Welcome to the July 8th OpenZFS production user call. We have Levi, Andrew, Stu, Rob, and myself, Michael, so far, and Rob has been a busy boy with a number of things upstreamed. Can you give us a quick punch list on these, my friend?
Yes, I can. Hello. So this is just I write a little weekly report um or bullet list, as you see, for my employer. But since most of my work is public, then that's fine. So what's in here is I think we talked about these last week, though I think possibly not on the call. So let's go. Send encrypted is a new delegated permission, which will be in the next major release. It'll also be in the next 2.4 release, which lets you hand out a permission that only allows raw sending only of encrypted data sets. So unlike the send raw permission, which will let you do raw sends of unencrypted data sets as well, send encrypted is only raw and only encrypted, which means that that person will never be able to put an unencrypted block on the wire. Is the point of that. So that's very nice in certain kinds of, like, belt and suspenders setups.
Yes, and I can see how from an engineering perspective, it's like, oh, well, you just have a workaround by doing this, this, and this. Whereas from an administrative perspective, it's like this user can only do this one
Yeah.
thing and not get it wrong. And we all sleep better at night. So thank you so,
Yep.
so much from this. And thank you from Daniel, who's been begging.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
That's the power of this talk for anyone who watches, and this meeting, who for anyone who watches and doesn't attend.
appreciate it.
Sometimes if you just roll the dice in here, I get sufficient. No, it's a good place to surface,
Well, real
small.
world issues, I'd hope. I like
Yeah,
to
little,
think.
and sometimes they're just little cuts that we can actually do something about. Linux 7.2 is in their uh 6 week release candidate window. So we have support for that now. It's a small step. It's just we bring it to upstream first, and then once the full uh sort of general availability is there, we that's when we usually bring that support back into a stable release tree. So I always like to crow about those ones because there's sort of a long history of uh, people sort of saying out loud without checking that, oh, ZFS is actually, it's always behind on Linux, this sort of thing. It's like, no, we usually have support in place even before the release candidates are out. So that's there. It's very little
Was there
upstream.
a change upstream that poisoned the milk, or was it simply just minor API adjustments or ABI adjustments, or what was the nature of anything having to change?
Oh yeah, this one is a uh was a for about the last 3 or 4 years, they've used a new API around actually setting up the mount points, and bringing a file system online. And the way that Linux usually does it is they bring a new API in, and then they iterate on that API for a couple of releases until they get it to a place where they like it, and then they start converting everybody over the next months, years.
Got it.
And then once they're done, they chop it out.
Deprecate the old one.
They deprecate the old one, or they remove the old one. So they removed the last piece of the old one in 7.2, which is this sget and sget fc. 7.0 was a big release for us because that's when they got rid of most of the old one. So we
Got it.
had to convert to it, and that's led to a bunch of work I've been doing, because we
Brilliant.
haven't touched most of our mount infrastructure in over a decade. So
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant.
um, log
Congrats on
space
getting
map.
work done.
What's
Sorry,
that,
go on.
Andrew?
Congrats on getting work done.
Congrats on getting work done. Yes.
Um, Sorry, I wasn't going to go through all this. I should have just written it. Log space map, flush condense. I won't give the whole thing because there's a document there. But
Performance, efficiency, or what category?
uh, efficiency.
Great.
It's
I'll take
but
it.
fast. You can pre you can do some of the work that we do during export that makes export slow ahead of time.
Oh, right.
So
Yes,
faster,
yes.
and that means so there's a new zpool condense command, and you can read all about that.
Got it.
You're not going to need it much unless you've got a lot of churn and sort of high availability stuff. You need to do a fast failover, but tools in the box.
So to recap, the penalty was either a very slow export, a very slow import, and now kind of doing some of the housekeeping prior to that to have a faster failover, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So you do the work while the pool's up, and then the export becomes small.
Brilliant. I'll can make a little comment there. So let's see. Moving on.
The rest is stuff you won't see from the outside. As I said, I've been completely rewriting the whole on Linux the whole way. The .zfs
Oh,
snapshot directory name, automatically mounts the snapshot and when it unmounts it and whatever else, partly to uplift it to all the new stuff that's available in the kernel. Also, we'll fix a whole bunch of sort of edge case quirks where I could talk for like an hour on this, so I
okay.
won't.
Okay, no
Um,
worries. Got it. So
but a lot of these have been gradual cleanup along the way. So I've extended the test suite and I've done a lot of cleanup of existing code, and then a lot of restructuring of, just all around the hookup into the VFS and everything. And I'm slowly getting all my ducks in a row on that. The actual work is done, but then as I get it ready for upstream, I'm like, yeah, I need to clean this up first. I can't ship mess. Um, so I think the rest of these two and the opened and the in progress is all around, or the first one of the in progress is all around that. So
on the 10 cleanup. Okay.
again, it's not
ID
something
map.
anyone will notice, but there's a lot of internal work, even just getting to the update that people will notice.
ID
This is
map
all that maintenance
users.
work that I harp on about.
Yes, brilliant. Love it. ID map users, finalizing. Whoops, another.
So that actually merged yesterday, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so this update's a couple of days old. I know it says FreeBSD on it. There's no need to be frightened. Linux has this concept of an ID map, which is used in containers. This number UID outside the container is the equivalent of this UID inside the container.
Ah,
Um, so this is what an ID map is. And it means that for most like uh accesses, because ZFS runs in the global namespace, the init namespace. So it's anytime a request comes in from a inside a container, it may have a different ID map, so we have to convert over. And that's fine. Like the VFS does most of that work. But when FreeBSD was brought into the well, what was the ZFS on Linux code base, it because a lot of the sort of core code had been extended to have a idmap parameter to pass around just for Linux. FreeBSD, because just as a matter of expediency, had kind of just added that parameter as kind of just passed as null around all over the place, which was totally kind of fine. But when I started to try and refactor it, I was like, I'm having to refactor FreeBSD code that doesn't use any of this. How about I just move everything around and I pull all that stuff back just into the Linux platform code? And that's what that PR is. So
brilliant.
now the core code doesn't know anything about idmaps, but the Linux platform code does, which is the way it should be.
Next one specific, perhaps.
Yeah, moving that to the Linux platform specific sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and see
do
and see
it
this
well in the right
this
place.
and this is one of those things like this stuff is in service of is going to make it a lot easier for me to land that snapshot mount work, which is something both employer wants and will also fix a ton of bugs. But also this is important refactoring for like ZFS user space, because now we don't have to define some fake notion of idmap for user space. So when I say, yeah, I'm kind of doing refactoring and it'll all help, it's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing I mean.
Cool. No, you didn't see that. Cool. Moving on to other ID map user ends.
Yeah, that's fine. That's something I'm probably going to post later today, which is just
Ooh.
a huge amount of refactor. Again, this is Linux turns the API. I should not have posted all of this, but we're here now. This is the Linux turns the API. So we have to cover 3 different forms of this idmap setup, how it's structured. And what that means is on every VFS op, we have a, if def this, if def this, if def this, just to get the parameters into the right format. And we do it over and over and over again for every single VFS call. And it's like, this could be a macro. And so I start with that simple premise and make it a macro, and then find all the places where actually it kind of can't be a macro, and then I go and fix all those too.
Cool.
And that ends up taking a week. So I'm just finalizing that today.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Moving on to IOVEC backend for crypto stuff, handoff stuff.
Right. So this is really short summary of the thing I did last week, which I said I'd try and keep short and then didn't. This is about how we pass buffers into the crypto suite for to encrypt or decrypt. And
I'm going to scroll down because we had a great discussion but didn't record it. So let's just punch through the high points there.
Yeah.
But it was like, why are we encoding, decoding, or running through it over and over? So yes, encryption.
We keep restructuring the buffers along the way because each layer has different shapes, and I am trying to make it just have one shape from end to end. So this is some work on that. ABD is the internal buffer format inside ZFS.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I can make it a little smarter, then I can just say to it, please give me your data in this structure without having to build a new thing and copying it. And so that's the experiment there.
So I believe this was a discussion. Why are we having all these API just conversions at each step? And bing, bing, bing. Okay. Brilliant.
So, and next week I will do marginally more prep to keep to this call.
Or see last week's discussion. Okay, very cool. And then internal discussion about security and vulnerability. Oh, yes. I have a little news there. You may have seen the headline today that the Illumos project has joined the CVE reporting, and the database folks, and I kindly asked for an introduction. And if you want to be champion on that, our illustrious Illumos developers Dan McDonald and Andy have been engaging that with. I'll put the post there. Here it is from Illumos land. Looking at you, Andrew. So has joined. Oh, wrong capital there. Has joined the CVE. I'll call it group. That's maybe not accurate, but I'm going with it. So, Rob, if that's something uniquely close to you, your heart and your employer's heart, maybe it's a time and place to champion it, and I've primed Matt Aarons on the topic. Just saying. So here, I'll throw this out there because it's today's news. So boom. That.
All right. I will go and have a look at that because I'm right. Yep. Okay. I mean, that's fine. It may be unrelated, but there is some little bits of overlap.
Great. And
I am a fan of CVEs being handled properly.
Yeah. And broadly, obviously under Sun, there were massive, probably departments for handling such things. And then under Delphix, there were
Yeah.
departments for handling such things. And now that's a whole bunch of like free agents. Well, yeah, we're kind of, doing what we do. Official announcement. So yeah, I hope I spelled that right. So there it is. It's today's news, and I'll drop that in chat. So yeah,
All
I
right.
didn't want to jump on what you were saying, but maybe that's timely and accurate.
I will
Okay.
I will
Oh,
look into it because
awesome.
it may connect to it, but yeah, we've been looking at one more specifically for OpenZFS itself because
Yes, and that's
because
where our friend
because right
Spin described the
because
process. I'll shut up.
yeah, it's just we don't have anything to show yet. We may in a few days, but it's basically right now if there is a security issue in ZFS itself, um, we don't have a process in ZFS for dealing with that. We're sort of reliant on the downstream for that, um, which is great, but it means that uh, if it's in some core piece of ZFS, like obviously the that vendor is going to find it and going to do their CVE and have their whole embargo and all the rest of it. But there isn't really a notification channel for the Linux distributions that distribute ZFS, or even if the bug is old enough for Illumos, for NetBSD, for
Yes.
these kind of things. So,
Hmm.
so we've been talking more about, and like, um, this did come up in a recent, there was a recent FreeBSD
Like
advisory about
several, eh?
ZFS, and in that case, you know, FreeBSD security team worked with OpenZFS to get those patches vetted and checked, but it was sort of a very, it was an ad hoc. It was fine, but it was an ad hoc process, and it's like we looked at that and went, yeah, we need a specific process for that. So, um, still heavily reliant on downstream vendors, but because that makes the most sense, they're at the coalface kind of thing. But where we can do that coordination and notification work, um, with it visible to everyone. So it's all trying to be as light touch and as sensible as possible.
Yes, and having a bunch of what I guess they'd call vendor code in FreeBSD having the issue, well, that's upstream, and well, let's do it properly and
Yeah,
upstream. So,
yeah. So in a lot of ways, it's just a codification of
amen.
that ad hoc process, which is will be nice to have, and then it's not quite so reliant on one or two people next time, which
Excellent.
is never fun. Cool. So,
Music to my
but we were
ears.
working on that. Nothing to say much yet, really.
Hmm. It progresses, well, progressing. How about that? So a month or two back, we discussed like how do we define a mount and a mount point, and one of your news reports suggested you might be tickling some of that code. What's the status of that whole journey from the 1980s definition of mounting the disk pack in one place to the modern definition of like layered containers with transient and permanent stuff and more stuff?
So the way the way it works on Linux and the way I'm shaping the remaining parts of the internals is on Linux, you have no choice. You have to be able, like, a mount is not a thing that the file system has anything to do with. It's just a ref count on the root directory entry. When the last ref count goes away, that's the unmount. It evaporates. There is a mount object which binds the mount point to the root entry. And that's the thing that the mount and unmount program controls. But it just holds references. So there basically isn't a choice. It's like you don't even know that someone has just created like a bind mount where they've created another mount, another one of those bindings to your file system because you still just end up on the root entry and it's fine. So I am fixing some of the assumptions inside the kernel code that mean that certain things don't work quite properly. Like, for example, if you something on Linux that breaks right now is not not crashes, but it doesn't work right, is if you go into a snapshot directory, so .zfs snapshot name, that triggers an auto mount. Now you have a real mount. You can see it in DF. We also set an expiry timer, which is after 5 minutes, is it? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. If nothing's been used on that file system for 10 minutes, then we unmount it.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay. So we keep that tidy.
Hmm.
Mostly because on FreeBSD the mount is created and never ever unmounted. But you don't see it because they don't appear in DF, but it does actually hold resources. And we don't want to hold those resources forever. So yeah. So we do that unmount, but that timer remains armed. Now, if you do then on Linux, you do a bind mount and then you unmount that original snapshot, which you can do because it's a regular mount. The snapshot's now mounted elsewhere, which is totally allowed. But now there's nothing on the mount point. So if you then go back into that mount point, right now, you will get a e-loop, too many layers of symlinks. Because
Okay.
because the snap mount system is tracking mounts, not which it has no control over, rather than those mount points that are currently in use, which it does have control over. So a lot of this has been converting that to understand that no, just because there's nothing on this mount point doesn't mean that the thing is not mounted somewhere else. And just because this mount point disappears, that doesn't mean that the thing is unmounted. You can't unmount a thing. You can only say to a thing, when your last ref count goes away, please disappear.
So is that expiry timer, Rob, going to be a tunable, or is that going to be hard coded?
It already exists. It is a tunable.
Okay.
It's just gonna be smarter
No,
about yeah.
No, there are
yes,
some processes we run against snapshots that take some time and would hit within that window. So
oh yeah,
sure.
no, that's a fair question. No, it's already there. There's more to that. It's rearmed each time the data set is used, so it has to be idle for 10 minutes. It resets if it's touched at all by any data operation. So
Excellent.
Interesting. And I can see an administrator thinking, oh, here, boss, I found the snapshot where the attack happened. I'm going to go get coffee and explain to the boss, and then it disappears on them. They're like, what just happened? What did I do wrong?
yeah,
Wow.
but you see, it won't matter because you go back into it and then
Sure.
it just
Okay.
Anyway, that's all internal kernel stuff. Right now, there is still a mount point parameter, which is and that only has the ability to list one mount point. And my thinking at this moment, because currently that property has to be portable across systems, it can never be more than one. And so my thinking is simply that it will just be one. And that is the thing that, the traditional features of ZFS work on, the automatic imports and whatever else. And if you want more than that, use your operating system provided mount infrastructure, which in Linux's case is far more sophisticated than what we have in ZFS. So just use that, which maybe means that saying mount point equals legacy is the wrong name for it, and maybe I should make an alias from legacy to host controlled or something like that. but
So
that would be an alias. That's
when you brought up the mount point as a single thing, that triggered where is ZFS in clustering mode? Because it's, in a cluster, if again, when OpenZFS decides that it's going to be a clustered type file system and support things hopefully sanely instead of the hack that we have to do now to make it work. But it could be mounted read only on server 2, read write on server 1, has different mount points. So again, just spitballing some stuff that, when we start talking about multi-host talking to the same storage backend and, through the magic of through all the magic.
Yeah,
that may be self-limiting. I don't know, but just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm not changing anything that's currently there, so it may be that we grow it again later. But clustering mode, I feel like that's not something.
No, it's not. It's not something. It's not something that's there yet, and it's something that.
Oh, I figure it may never, at least at the current with the current personnel, because we just don't have enough people or something like that. I mean, Lustre exists, and Lustre does this, and the way Lustre does this is it bypasses the ZPL, the POSIX adapter entirely. It links directly into the DMU. So you never actually mount the thing. Just the what's it called, is it the OSD or is it the other thing? I can't remember. The bit of Lustre that lives on every host, that does all the coordination. It knows what data sets and stuff are around, and it talks into ZFS's core directly, and doesn't worry about mounting and such. So whether or not it's a good model, I don't know, but that seems like a better model, at least for the moment. Like, don't do distributed file systems over regular file systems.
Absolutely, but
yeah,
there are some things that we need to be able to do, and it's annoying, and I know, again, money talks, and at some point that annoyance will get funded. But again, just keeping it in local cache memory, not long term.
Quick question in that course of that, in these weeks, have you come up with a more accurate definition of mount point insofar as requested or canonical or first or of record or something that's still always accurate despite the fact that there may be 50 things piled on top of it?
No, and I don't think there can be.
Got it. Okay.
Because it's not clear. Like, you can say, is it mounted? Where is it mounted? But it may not be the original. It may not be a mount you can access directly because there's something mounted over the top of it.
How about aspirational?
Yeah, mount point equals just do your best. Give it a red hot. Good luck, soldier. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I think the mount point parameter is always going to be, this is the mount point that we control, that the ZFS tools control, but to actually determine if it's mounted, or whatever, you actually have to go to the host and say, where are your mounts? And work there. And that will mean that I need to think about, like, if you do an export and a data set is mounted twice, and one of them is one that we don't control,
do
we unmount or not? And I mean, I'm going to go with a simple thing and say, no, if you did a weird, then I'm not undoing your weird. You'll just get busy. But
can the ZFS command out of the box overmount multiple data sets within its own domain?
Yes.
Try that. Yes, it can. Okay.
It needs to be smarter about that. That's where all this bloody
people want that. I don't know.
No, it can overmount, it can overmount, but they're not through punching.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
right. Well, that's a whole different bucket of
yeah, no, it
fancy
can't.
stuff.
No, it can't overlay.
Right.
As we've discussed, but
Yeah.
and no, it does need to be smarter about that because one of the things, this is where this all started. One was someone showed me a place where a child data set had been mounted over the top of its parent. No, other way. A
Okay.
parent data set had been mounted over the top of its child because they had inherited mount points and properties in such a way that there was a double slash. And that
Oh,
means
hello.
a
Yeah.
simple sort of alphanumeric sort had sorted those differently because it wasn't a path-based sort where it knew to collapse the slashes. So it mounted them in the wrong order. Um, so like that's where all this bloody nonsense. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, I'll fix that, and then it went off down the rabbit hole
Yep.
of like the work which genuinely, rivals Wonderland in its complexity, but and insanity. It's all made of lead.
And I
But
trust that sort could be different on different host OSs with the same underlying pool because
yes,
woohoo,
yes,
fun.
and
Okay.
so yes, there will be a when I eventually get back to that, which is when I eventually unwind all that stack. There will be a platform provided path sort, uh, path ordering thing, and
Cool.
we will go from there. Which
May the
particularly gets
caffeine
interesting.
flow.
Yeah, which is also fun in if you have mount namespaces because this path inside the container is not necessarily this path outside the container. There's a thing in Linux called
Right.
mount propagation, which is where if you've shared a mount into another namespace, so into a container, and then you mount another thing in one of on top of that mount inside one of those namespaces, does the other namespace see it or see that submount or
Oh,
not?
goodness. Yeah.
And there are 4 different modes for mount
Well,
propagation. So yeah, cool.
great. Alrighty. Any questions for Rob?
Please.
Levi, you free? So
I
let's
am here.
briefly
Yes.
have the talk. This talk took place yesterday among a bunch of us. Levi received an ultimatum to encrypt data at rest in the spirit of compliance, and it's on a TrueNAS core system. And we ran some tests and we learned some quirks about, your encryption route versus an encrypted data set and if you're sending into it, and then yes, it has to be below a parent to get the benefits inherited of encryption. And we got the mechanics right, but then had a philosophical discussion of okay, so if we are going to protect against the bad thing with encryption, yet it might be an unreasonable burden for every person in the IT team to have the ability to shell in and add manual passphrases on boot after a 8-hour power outage late last night. And we really don't want to piss off all our users and lose revenue, yet have to check those check boxes. What, in all practicality, maybe in the appliances of the world from folks like Rob's employer and Stu's employer, what does it look like to safely say, hey, here's a machine that's safe if you pull out all the disks and the boot drive has an encryption key, or you put the entire NAS in the back of your pickup truck and race down the road, or you magically net boot it such that the boot media has a key that's never visible on the resulting system, or something, something, something. So I'd love to hear what people are doing. And while no one here is a lawyer, I'd love to hear what has successfully checked boxes and driven off the auditors, maybe. Go.
Well, I can talk about what we did in
Yes, please.
previous job. And that was um we weren't doing any specific compliance uh stuff because we were just our own service provider. But it was all threat model based, so it was based on um, once you have physical access to the network, you were probably or to the machines, we were probably sorry, we're probably screwed, but at the very least we would know about it because we were using entirely co-located systems on the other side of the world. So we had a very good relationship with our data center operator. And, we accepted that, if someone turns up with a gun and says, give me all the servers, they're getting them. But the data drives in that case were encrypted at rest. Mostly Lux to start ZFS encryption very late and before I left. And I believe that's the case with those now. And that was that was like an operational nicety as well, because it meant that when we discarded disks, we didn't have to wipe them. We could just throw them away. Well, send them for destruction, but didn't have to worry too much about overwrites and whatever.
That's a good
And
point.
but our root partitions, like our boot partitions, were never encrypted because they were always just the straight operating system. We reinstall them very regularly by just untarring a
Yeah.
golden image over the top, and that's just like it's just Debian. It's just files you can get from elsewhere, so there was no need.
Nothing
And
secret.
all our uh no encryption keys stored on the machine. So to again, operationally, we'd set it up so that reboots were very rare. Systems were designed to never be touched. The only times they would actually be rebooted were if an operator is doing it for some reason, and so is obviously there, or like there was something crashed overnight, which was very rare. But the rules around that were you do not reintroduce this system into production until you have studied the crash and it's understood or agreed that we can't figure it out and we'll give it another go. But
Nice, huh?
again, human right there.
Yeah.
So based on that, we were like, fine, in that case, there's a human there in all cases that matter. So the human will, type in the encryption password.
Okay, so with an 8-hour power outage that blows out the diesel in the generators and all batteries, a human goes in and decrypts everything?
No, because again, they don't need to. The machines will boot,
Okay.
which is enough to get you SSH.
Yeah, but then
And
a human
then,
unlocks things?
oh yeah, and then a
Okay.
human unlocks them. Not physically, but yes,
Yeah,
we've done live fire, like data center boot from cold tests. We had
got it.
had processes for that. Which was
Hmm.
always fun because you only do them once every couple of years, and then you
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, some of our early stage stuff is not quite right, but I mean, we only ever had to do that in production, like for real. Data center lost power
Hmm.
once,
Once.
um,
Well, yeah.
and we moved out of there shortly after because we were not happy with them. It doesn't matter. But yes, so that was that was good enough for what we sold people. We basically said the only way that we believe this encrypted data can still be visible is if you can somehow get a machine out or memory out or something while it's still powered on. And at that point, we figured that would be incredibly invasive. We would, there is no way for that to happen without the data center operators who we had a very good relationship with happening. And at that point, we're just going to yell. We're just going to yell on the internet. We're just going to say, yeah, like, sorry, all your emails been breached because the government turned up with guys with guns and said, give us everything or we'll kill you. And So we gave it to them. So sorry, but that's beyond our commitment in our terms of service, and you should do something about your government. From Australia, we figured that was reasonable, but you'll know all of that is about operational and threat modeling, not about computers at all.
Yeah, right. And I suppose with dual power supplies, you could magically have a whole cart of UPSs and you switch it over and carefully remove it. Don't wiggle a disk more than it should till it looks like a failure and slide it out ever so slowly, carefully, and down the elevator. And yeah, okay.
You definitely could. I
Yeah,
mean, as soon
I
as it
suppose.
disappears from the network, like four op staff will get paged. So
Yeah.
like again, we notice.
Yeah.
So, pairs for everything. You know, there's data center staff who can receive an NDA, can be silenced, but
Yep.
there's operational staff in a different country who are monitoring the network, who will notice that something happened. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it. And the product you now technically contribute to, I believe it allows a choice of a passphrase that a human enters or a key that's on a boot drive and it just gets loaded on boot and everyone's happy. Do you know if that was like motivated by a specific compliance or strictly that's a practical way to do it and have a nice day?
I think it's just a practical way to do it. Even the passphrase, we just do some algorithm on it to turn it into a key, and it all goes into the same path.
Okay. So it will support passphrase yet on boot because perhaps in previous products it was manual, which is desired for some. I mean,
It
yeah.
supports passphrase. The boot system we don't look after. The boot system has to run ZFS load key to get the thing from wherever it's stored into ZFS. That's not a ZFS thing.
Has someone present spent time on an OpenZFS aware OS that would boot from an encrypted data set? Is that a thing in practice?
ZFS boot menu.
Okay.
I use it every day. My root is encrypted. I mean, I don't reboot every day because I'm not a monster. But
yeah, that's the question. Okay, and I forget how that's a yawn question, but he's not here today. But yeah, he's been doing years of things like a co-located server that allows for minimal access to get in those keys to decrypt and then boot and reroute and blah blah blah
yeah.
blah blah. So
And I think we were talking a little bit yesterday as well about magic ways to go and get the keys off the network and stuff, because ZFS load key the key location property can say HTTP and HTTPS.
oh, no kidding. Okay.
So it was like, what if you wanted to reach out to something and get it off the network? So Daniel and I were sort of briefly saying, well, it could be fun to have something that like when it some central host that's pinging the machine, and when it notices it transition from not running to running, then it makes the key available for like a minute for it to go and grab, and then the calmer mind of someone else said, yes, there are tools that exist for this, and pointed at a project called Clevis, CLEVIS, which is some sort of key management and distribution network thing. I don't think it was making a recommendation, just saying things like this exist, but that's if you wanted to do something, automatic, network based, and whatever.
Cool. And Clevis.
I
Well,
put it
ArchWiki,
in
that's
the
always a
chat.
good source. Go ahead. Oh,
I put it in the chat.
Thank
And
you. Boom, there it
someone
is.
else had also mentioned the potential of using TPM, but your mileage may vary.
The PC TPM promises to do this. Go ahead, Stu.
I mean, and the hacker in me, it's that key is GPG wrapped, available on the network. That host is the only one that's got the unwrapped key. And as it boots up, it pulls it. If it can decrypt it, or if it passes the un-GPG'd load key in,
Oh yeah.
and again, it works. It's not sexy, but it works.
But the decrypt is uh, a specific audience, shall we say?
Yeah.
Hmm.
But again, it's for, that specific data set, not necessarily the entire pool.
Sure.
So again, it goes back to, I need the operating system up so it can be remotely managed to be able to get all the way through. So the boot level encryption, once that passes through, now it's application and data level at whatever is needed for that customer. And it can be dynamic, and we can rotate keys and everything else like that.
And I will say that at an airport, I'd rather my laptop boot to something plausible and not very interesting and have all the data kind of encrypted and they not know that or care or not know much about the encryption
Right.
properties and like, oh, okay, yeah, you've got some cat photos. Great, move on. Just saying.
Yeah, once they start looking at, oh, what's this other storage pool over here? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're-
Or
they're
the fact that
beyond-
it boots to nothing would be more suspicious. Like, well,
Yeah.
wait, you don't have an OS on your laptop. I don't believe you. Like, yeah, just yeah, no.
It boots up to Windows ME.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Well, great. I've wanted to have that talk for years, and it's been in the back of my head with a sort of an instinctive understanding, but it didn't come down to an ultimatum from above and a practical new data set that was discussed as part of pulling all that, was it Veracrypt nonsense out that took like 3 days, 4 days?
Yes.
So
But
that's what the real world looks like. Go ahead, Stu.
But if the load key has a web offshoot, basically curl wrapper for it, that's fantastic. That would work too.
Question about the HTTPS and other properties. Is that like a super simple thing and the overlying OS handles everything, or does ZFS have some notion of like performing, in the future, an SSH connection that does one specific thing from a key in a property and other clever stuff?
I think I know what you're saying.
How smart is it, or how primitive is it? Because
it's relatively somewhere in between.
okay.
But for what are the valid formats for key location? None, prompt, just read from the terminal,
Yeah.
obviously.
None, prompt.
File, which is read from file, HTTP and HTTPS. We
Oh, okay.
restrict to those for the moment. HTTP and HTTPS call out to a library on FreeBSD that's libfetch, so the thing under the fetch tool, and on Linux that's libcurl.
Oh, okay. Does that ship in
and
most distros out of the box?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah.
and I mean, but we do build time detection as well. Like if it's not built for it, it'll just go, this ZFS does not support HTTPS or whatever. So in theory, it can be made to support anything else. Two feature requests that are on the tracker. One is for TFTP.
That's a known
And
request?
Yep, it's on the issue tracker somewhere.
Okay.
It's an old one, but it's there. And another is like a command call out.
But I mean,
So-
at that point, I mean, this kind of goes back to let ZFS do what it's good at and put a wrapper up front of it to create a file in dev shared memory to get the key in and wipe it.
Yeah.
That again, that's the more, and I'm having this fight with other developers that I'm dealing with, of it doesn't need to do everything. It needs to do what it was asked to do.
Yeah.
We can wrap before and after to make it sexy. Just give me the one piece of information I need out of this. It's the Linux Unix mentality. I can awk grep and set it. There's not much that can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think a command one is probably a good idea, and that would just about leave it there. The one thing I want to think about is, and probably already need to, is how is key location interpreted on received snapshots?
Yes, sir.
Because obviously, if you can set key location locally
Yeah.
because you compromise, and then that's replicated out, and something occurs to mount that remote one, and you can make it run a command there. Well, I feel like there's a
Oh, Daniel.
There's a gap and a hack built into
yes,
that.
but what possibly may work, I was thinking last night, was just because I was reading this code yesterday after this conversation. So after a chat we had
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes.
um one thing I was thinking was possibly for um maybe even all of them, I don't know, but we only uh uh we only allow we only pay attention to the key location property if that property was set or inherited locally, not because there's a separate flag on properties that says where they came from. And one of the flags is was set by because it arrived on a stream. So if it was never set locally or inherited locally, it's only got from the stream, then we don't let it be used, or maybe we don't let it be used for like anything other than prompt or something. I don't know. I haven't thought
Sure,
this
sure,
through,
sure.
but
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So if you wanted to use, run a command, then you actually have to either explicitly set it on the other host first, or you have to run like it's like ZFS load key -L, I think, which lets you override the key location right there.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. I have not thought it through at all, but like I would hate to have a facility that allowed you to run a remote command by setting a property on this data set and just leave a little time bomb for the administrator. That could be a bad day. Um,
And that's a capital L?
I'll have to check
I think
something.
no,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
So then
Great, thank
I
you.
guess the broader question is what is the perfect pair for the encrypted send only? It's like, okay, well, we've established that one view of the safety of not letting unprivileged people do stuff. What do we do from a key management perspective for the exact same encrypted data? So there's some context. So yeah, I'm glad we're having this chat.
Internal and external escrows.
So Levi, have you checked the checkboxes you need to check for checking the checkboxes for this task?
I think we're getting closer.
Great.
Yeah. Uh, for what it's worth, from everything I can see from other vendors like NetApp, they're by default doing what TrueNAS does and stores the key on the same system. May not be necessarily on the same storage pool, but the key does exist as it has to be read in plain text somewhere, right? So TrueNAS Enterprise, and I think NetApp also offers some sort of cloud-based solution to remotely access the key, but that also creates other risks that for organizations like mine may not be acceptable if the entire network is down because a building lost power.
Yeah.
So
And that's where that escrow service happens. You send me the key, you will be able to get it when you need it type of scenario.
right.
Whether it's SneakerNet or over the phone or whatever, you will get that. You'll get what you need to pass it out.
So what could keys look like? Or, following, I mean, I remember 20 years ago, people were SSHing with that little list of keys in their wallet and they just run through the few of them. Is the underlying code smart enough to handle something like that, or do you add a layer on top so it's only one internal key and then one time one's on top? I don't know, thinking out loud here.
right now inside ZFS there is only support for uh one uh which key is it? One wrapping key.
Mhm.
Which is what ZFS change key changes. Um, so there is enough. The storage format for those is uh, deliberately set up that it could have more than one. We just only have one.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, so we could,
Per
yeah,
per
So the
we
data
could
per data set.
per data set.
per encryption route,
Okay.
which is near enough, but not quite the same.
Right. No, it's semantics, but it's accurate semantics.
Yeah. No, so sorry, I don't mean the storage could have more. Oh, yes, yes. No, sorry, no, that is I missed the per.
Okay, so the internal data structure could support more than one.
Yes. The internal code does not, but my point is it's an easier feature to add because we don't have to do a format change.
Got it. Oh, yeah. Oh, so the pool wouldn't change; it would just be housekeeping around it.
Yeah, we just add a bit more code
Right.
to do it. And people do ask for it from time to time. They want
Are there
like
open issues?
uh there are, I'd have to go find it.
Okay.
The thing that people say they want is so Lux has this whole complicated multi-slot, multi-key like all singing, all dancing thing. And my pushback has always been I don't want to reproduce that because that is actually an extensible format and you can go and write a provider that uses that. You could hook Lux can decrypt and encrypt and control multiple things, multiple different kinds of things, not just the in-kernel de-encrypt, which people conflate the two. So like go and do that and have it talk to our tools and come back to me later. And
Yeah.
no one ever does. I'm wary of overbuilding, basically, which is why I have it. So like I think a good case can be made for multiple wrapping keys, but we would need a little bit more stuff, not just to allow it to work, but also to be able to list and manage them. But I have also always liked the idea of, and I do have a couple of prototypes for it, but they're not really properly fleshed out, for a zpool key store command, because some operating systems have an in-kernel key management system for the entire operating system. Linux to some extent, but macOS and Windows both do. And I would like you to be able to say, I would like to use the key store provided by my platform for managing my encryption keys, because those systems in turn can often then be connected on one side to the host TPM or on the other side to the corporate, Active Directory or whatever. So I would like, I think about adding those hooks there. And so that's why I'm also not too keen to go too early on building out a multi-slot thing. But also there's only been a couple of soft issue feature requests on the tracker, no real conversation of use cases. So I tend not to touch.
Okay, quick question. Could we have relatively easy support for one administrative key and then junior delegated keys we give to the backup admin that are easily revoked without having to touch the super secret root admin one? However you want to phrase that.
Delegated is a really, really interesting idea. And I'm kind of kicking myself because it seems obvious, but I had not thought about it till you just said it. I mean, we could. We can store multiple as long as we can designate like their purpose and maybe from there which
They're role-based keys.
Yeah, I'd need to think a little more about how it wires into delegation or whether it's more user-based or something, because some of our tools for that are a little anemic as well. But yeah, we totally could, and that's actually probably a wish Daniel was here right now. That's actually probably a better driver in the first case to be able to say, I delegate you this permission to work on these data sets, and also here is you have permission to modify a key,
Oh,
but that is
good point.
but that is a user key, not an admin key.
Right. Ooh, yes. Okay.
And I still get to keep one. So, but to basically be able to slice the concept up in a way that different parts can be managed on different life cycles, with different credentials.
And then you get into actual multi-tenancy where they can manage the customers can manage their own keys, yet I still have a master key that can manage their keys.
In case of emergency, I put that just as one way of
Yeah,
one notion of like, okay,
which goes back to the escrow thing, which is the auditor in me is spun up. Do you have your keys in escrow? No, then you don't have a valid system. If you're not, if it's not in a safe, geographically dispersed, how are you going to recover? You're not.
And this is eerily similar to how Office 365 is set up from what I can find. The hardware encryption key for the actual disks, the per tenant keys, and then the administrator keys, which are time-based and everything else for those who are writing the code and doing administrative work.
Well, it's a key checkout function. Hey, I'm going to go and act
Yes.
as this role for this period of time. Give me the key I need, and then that gets revoked. It's tracked and goes from there.
like evening backup, I do the thing, I'm allowed to do the thing and only the thing.
Right.
Mic drop.
Hmm.
Hey, yeah, like I said, it's a conversation that's been nagging me for years, and I'm glad we're having it because now it has some pretty pragmatic use cases, especially if changing OSs, and we have OpenZFS between different OSs. Well, what's it look like in practice, and how do we check as many checkboxes without driving ourselves crazy or IT staff crazy? Or as Stu, you've correctly pointed out, like, hey, that's what you think is a solution is barely a solution for many. Okay, copy link. So breaking news. Thank you, Rob. What are we looking at? Oh, it's a link for, and who do we have to thank? I'm going to go with Brian. Place your bets, and boom, security policy. Hello. Do you know the backstory on this, or are we all looking at it for the first time right here and right now?
You're muted, Rob.
Sorry. Yes, no, I've read this before. When I said this, we're working on this. Yes. Looks like
Okay. Short.
I haven't had, like I said, I sat straight down for this call, so I haven't had a chance to check my overnights. But as I've been going through them a little bit off to the side, looks like about 4 hours ago, it was like, "Yep, we're doing this," and
Great.
this is up there. So report a vulnerability will go and let you fill in kind of a special format issue where you can describe what's happening, and then in the back there is a like a sort of it's sort of a separate private it's sort of a separate private issue tracker for that just the security team can see, and the security team well I'll check it, but our intent I believe is to invite
People
like
who need to be involved get invited.
Yeah, like the maintainers of the downstream distributions, and maybe some notable like vendor representatives, and a small but necessary group. But anyway, so there you go, we have a button.
Brilliant. And yes, it was Brian called it. So excellent. That is,
That was pretty low hanging fruit though, there, Michael.
I know, but geez, love it. Love it.
I mean, it's true, but it does represent a step. Like
Absolutely.
it represents a certain kind of commitment. And I've been clear on that in the conversation. It's like we don't need to do we can do this very simply now, but we need to think about what will happen if it goes big, and are we going to get in our own way? So for various bits and pieces. So I'm not really poo-pooing you. It is a low-hanging fruit, but it's good to see it there.
No, I'm thanking him on Slack nonetheless. You can't stop me. Okay, this has been fantastic. Anything else, gentlemen? And what was it? Brian came and went. I guess he had a question on schedule and oops. But fantastic. Love it. And I suppose homework is to just think about what those practical example systems are of where there's, in case for emergency break glass key versus delegated ones versus the whole, like you said, Office 365 structure. And can we tap right into that and slam those junior admin keys right into it and everyone's happy, especially given that Jorgen's been making progress on Windows. So, I'm a happy camper. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Who wants the honors?
I can subscribe.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a great one, everyone.
Catch you later.